Also, another topic that's really worth talking about now is set blocks and rotation. A lot of people are salty about this. I see a lot of people talking about they're going to quit One Piece or like Bandai killed their game. What are your guys' thoughts on rotation? And I want Manny to lead because I know Manny disagrees with me. What is good, homies? It's Chris from Small Hat Crew, joined today by Small Hat Manny.
Yo.
Small Hat Brandon.
Suh, dude.
And Small Hat Nick.
Hello.
We're going to just jump right into it, boys. Based off of Worlds that we watched last night. You guys all watched it, right?
I did not.
I did not watch Worlds.
Oh my fucking. Okay, well, you know what? I guess we won't discuss Worlds. We'll just discuss the announcements. So we'll talk about the ban list announcement. We'll talk about the set block and rotation that we'll be seeing moving forward. How there's gonna be like another format for Pokemon. One Piece's Pokemon expanded format. Parallel. There's so much. There's so much to tackle here. I want to go ahead and start with the big one, and that's of course the restricted list. What are your thoughts, boys? I guess for people back home, everybody should know by now, but if you do not, Jinbei was Jinbei was banned, Gecko was banned, Kingdom Come or Raigo was banned, and Ice Age was banned. Thoughts? Take it away. Anyone. I don't care who. Go for it.
This is dog shit.
No, bro. Okay. All right. So I guess, all right. If no one's gonna win, I'll lead. I will lead. Gum Gum Giant was not touched by this ban list whatsoever. What are our thoughts on that?
I knew it wasn't going to get touched because they
They've set precedents of preemptively hitting cards like they did with Kabaji. They should have absolutely hit Giant.
Fair.
No. I think they should have hit Giant, but I don't think it's going to be something that they were planning. Like I don't think they were actually going to do it because one, it's too new of a card, and two of the better decks / main character decks are coming out as the green purple Luffy and the purple green Luffy, the purple blue Luffy and the green purple Luffy, and like that card is playing in both of them, and they want people to buy those.
That's what I was talking to Garen about last night. So and okay, and I think one thing worth addressing here, because like every time I've seen this conversation come up like on the internet, I always see people talk about Gum Gum Giant. It's not a problem right now, so there's no reason to hit it. This would be a future-proof ban. So I don't think there are a lot of people that actually are salty about like Gum Gum Giant in today's meta or whatever. My stance on it is that currently as it is, it's fine because it's not played in like one of the best leaders of the set. But
well, now it's the best leader until week 11.
That's another conversation I like to have too, where we think like the meta goes and all that. But yeah, literally in the very next set, Extra Booster 2, we get Green Purple Luffy, who at least as far as the East was concerned, was the best performing leader of that set. And then the very next set right after, OP11, Blue Purple Luffy is the best performing leader of that set, outperforming even like the likes of like Red Purple Law and Blue Black Sakazuki and everything like that as far as numbers go. So there's going to be the next meta, best deck and format will run that card, and then the meta after that, the best deck and format will run that card, and then even the meta we're going to be in currently in OP10. No way to predict how it plays out, but you know there is a potential argument for Purple Luffy to be best deck and format running that card. So there could be 3 straight formats of that card in the best leader, which is why I think that card probably should have gone. And I say that as a Purple Luffy player. I do play Pluffy for anyone back home that does not know that. So there's no bias in this whatsoever. But yeah, so Brandon, you wanna talk about Giant or anything like that before we move on to our next topic? Anybody wanna?
Yeah, I do agree that like preemptively banning cards is bad. Especially based off of the only real like I don't know. Looking at the overall ban list. Sorry, I know you like asked about it before, but I was mid game. I just wrapped it up. I apologize.
Same.
Brothers.
We were
waiting on you.
Yeah, we were waiting on you.
No, you're right. Actually, that is true.
Yeah, my game is wrapped up though. All right, so my only thing that I was taken by surprise on the ban list, I'm not gonna lie, was Raigo or Kingdom Come.
Yeah, no, same.
Saw the Gecko ban coming from a mile away.
Same.
I think everyone's seen it coming, and I think that's where you don't want to preemptively ban, but also I think Gecko's a problem where you don't want to wait 4 sets to ban a problem card. Jinbei I wasn't surprised by. I know some people like Nick, for example, was on the stance of it didn't do anything until the new cards came out, but it's what unlocked them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no,
overall, I was like, if any card's gonna get hit, I was always on the side of Jinbei. Ice Age was kind of a surprise to me, but
that
also
was a very
not
big
a
surprise for
surprise.
me.
Yeah, it was
Especially
a surprise
since-
because we
Well,
didn't
so-
like think about it.
One thing I
But
would
it
like to
does a
address
lot
really
for a one
quickly
cost.
is because
Yeah.
people saw me publicly take a stance against Ice Age getting hit as recently as yesterday. Yeah, because there was a prediction that Ice Age was going to be banned, and I commented on the video saying, "You're off your ass if you think Ice Age is going anywhere," and a day later it got banned, so...
Ice Age, like, it was a surprise, but also, like, I'm not shocked by it because it does a lot for a one-cost event, arguably the most. And then Kingdom Come was the only one where I'm like, I don't really get it. Like, it fits a Nell's playstyle and only a Nell's playstyle. And, I mean, you have Red Rock sitting around, where Red Rock is just 6 Dawn, do the same thing, but get around KO effects and shit. And this is arguably just
Well,
worse.
okay, so I think
you know,
regarding that,
maybe Yellow doesn't need it, I guess.
exactly, I was gonna say, I think Blue should have like a removal event that powerful. I don't think
Agreed.
Yellow should. So
Agreed.
that's why I see him taking it from Yellow despite it already existing in Blue.
Now, to answer your question as well, before I get too off topic, I do think that the one-cost event, what's it called? The Gum Gum Giant?
Uh-huh.
I think it's a fucking problem. I mean, you want to talk about a one-cost giving you
Ooh.
as much value as Ice Age does? Gum Gum Giant it's a problem.
Yeah.
Personally, you know.
I'm not gonna lie. I was very happy to see it didn't get hit because I play it currently and I'll be playing it in the next 2 decks I jump ship to
You sure
with
will.
each set. I will play that card until it is gone. That card's incredible. But like, with the bias aside, realistically, I am well aware that card should be gone. That card should not still be here, you know?
Absolutely.
I don't think anyone's defending it that isn't a Ploofy player that can't see past the bias, pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause that
I
card
do
is-
think so just my takes on all the cards real fast is that the Gecko we saw a mile away, it finally forces black decks to have to think of new ways to build their decks and how to play and how to resource manage instead of just being like, oh, I'm just gonna throw everything to the grave until I get the Gecko and then from there I pop off. But so I'm really excited for that. I'm a little sad for Black Yellow Luffy, but I'm also kind of excited for it because now I think, and maybe a little bit of cope, but I think there's something there with the Supernova package. Instead of having to do the brothers, you do like a Supernova package with everything. But we'll see where that goes from there. The Jinbei, well, like just like how we talked about in the last video for our ban prediction, I also sit on the same boat as Nick, where it's like Jinbei was never a problem. I think it was more the other pieces. And then like, so I think it would be better to hit other pieces instead of Jinbei. But now that Jinbei is hit and I still have all my other pieces, I still think Doffy is going to be a good deck. Like, yeah, I don't get to go as wide, but just like how we talked in that ban list prediction, you talked about combos that Doffy's able to do without Jinbei. And it's like, those combos are still there and I can still do them. It doesn't change that.
Or I guess, Nick, you haven't really talked whatsoever about, you know, so you go for it before I weigh in again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my hope with this ban list is like, so this hit 2 decks. So every ban list has hit a deck that I've played, I think, at this point. This ban
Well,
list,
that's what
playing
happens when you
meta.
play the best deck.
Right?
Yeah. You're the prime target.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just to reiterate, Ice Age, I don't think should have been hit. Yeah, like you're saying, that black event to reduce something by 7 costs in order to reduce decks that drop big bodies, which, hey, guess what's coming out in OP11? 9 drop into 9 drop into 9 drop into 9 drop. In order to remove large bodies, I can maybe remove 1 a turn with red, rock, and blue. Or just not remove them at all in black. So not a fan of that hit at all. Gecko, we've known it's been coming for ever and a half now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this does kill Black Yellow Luffy, because I do genuinely think that deck's degenerate and don't like it at all. It's one of my least favorite decks to ever play into. So we knew it was coming. It is unfortunate. I still think Jinbei is the wrong hit for Doffy. So I'm hoping he remains relevant, but considering that he's already gone in OP11, whatever. He's gone. Kingdom Come was good, just because Yellow should just like reject. It's overtuned card for an L specifically. That is
Fair.
It's annoying. It's an annoying card. So all of the hits except for Jinbei are hits that I'm pretty okay with. Jinbei, I think, should have been the 2 cost each for the wall instead.
One thing I'll completely agree with Nick there is the Ice Age hit. I feel like the only time I really had a problem going against Black and seeing Ice Age was when they did Ice Age Gecko. So if you're getting Gecko out of the mix anyways,
Yeah, that's fair, actually.
Now you're just like really over crippling Black, in my opinion.
So I guess my opinions on all of the cards is so I guess leading with the Jinbei hit, I think kind of like how Manny were you saying earlier that like there are still combos you think the deck's still fine without Jinbei and all that. I think that is a testament to the fact that like the deck didn't need Jinbei. Because I think like you were saying it's like other pieces or whatever, but I think the other pieces were fine. And I think Jinbei's what pushed them over the top. For example, like if you take Jinbei out of the mix, all of a sudden Weevil is a card that you just hate to see in your hand. You know, like Weevil wasn't a problem prior to Jinbei, and then, you know, after Jinbei, now all of a sudden 5 and a 6 draw card is really fucking annoying to deal with. 2 cost Teach gets a lot worse because you lose Teach's ability to Jinbei into Law and then bounce the Jinbei, then stack it and then play the Jinbei again for a 3rd body. Even the Boas get worse because now that is still 8 6k bodies with no counter in your deck. And like Jinbei was the main thing that like really offset how shitty it felt to draw those cards.
And now you have no way to play Boa as active without just hard casting it.
Yeah, exactly. Which I don't know. I think that's probably what they were. I think what they should do is I think they should just print another Warlord that has Jinbei's effect, but just plays a body tapped and just call it a day. Ideally, I think they should just errata it, but like
it's literally just Doflamingo.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why I think it should be tapped, because if Doffy plays the bodies tapped, I think whatever Warlord, I think maybe you just make a 4-cost Doffy and the Doffy plays them tapped, you know. Like, I think that just makes sense. Yeah, Doffy, like, losing the ability to go super wide, I think is fine. I think honestly, I think him going wide was always degenerate, because I don't think a blue leader should be playing aggro to begin with. So, like, Doffy kind of spit in the face of what it meant to be a blue leader. He was a red leader that just happened to be blue. Like, that fucker was not... He was like a red leader that could pudding you. That was pretty much what was happening there.
It did really feel like playing against Animal Zoro deck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Doffy's
like
not a blue deck
on it.
at all.
Yes, shit was annoying.
Yeah.
But Doffy's based in Zoro's brain.
Yeah, so
fair.
I don't know the Jinbei hit, because I think ideally if you wanted Doffy to stay good, I think you just hit 2-cost Teach. The reason I'm amazed
Teach does the same thing. Like, but you still have access to Jinbei.
The reason I am amazed that they hit the Jinbei is because Jinbei. So the only reason I thought Teach should be hit over Jinbei is so that Boa didn't get caught in the crossfire. Boa's fucking crippled by this. Boa players are in fucking shambles after this. This was like such a massive hit to them. Like, because Boa like lives and dies a lot like by 4-drop Law. And 4-drop Law, it gets so much worse when you take Jinbei out of the equation. He gets so much worse. It's not even funny. So, that's kind of how I feel about the Jinbei. I don't think like it was a necessary hit. I do think it's kind of even in like an overkill hit. But yeah, I guess if they want Doffy out of the meta, Jinbei is probably the most guaranteed way to do it. As far as Ice Age, it's a hit I don't really I didn't like initially agree with. I'm not even like opposed to it. I'm not even in favor of it, but I can see why it is they're doing it. Because Ice Age, when it was introduced to the game, it was not a problem in any kind of way because black cards, like if you wanted to pop something on the board, you'd have to play like Ice Age minus something and then play Kobe from your hand, and then Kobe would discard a card. And now, you know, you've taken 3 cards out your hand to take 1 card off the opponent's board. But now that black effects are going plus, they're either going neutral or plus, the deficit of like losing Ice Age is no longer there. Because, yeah, the body you play, you know, it just goes from hand to board. You don't lose any card advantage there. You're not discarding anything, so you're not going minus in the hand. And then you're popping a body on the opponent's board. So you're actually going plus. If you use Ice Age, it's just neutral. So you pretty much trade the card in your hand for any body on your opponent's board. I can see why it is that they probably don't want that in the game. I don't think it was really like necessary, especially when you take Gecko out the equation. I think if you're gonna hit Gecko, Ice Age honestly could have stayed. I think it's really a really dumb hit. I'm not gonna lie.
So
I also
like go ahead.
Go for it. No, go for it.
No. So like just a quick thought. I was just thinking about different decks that kind of just like come up. I do think that I'm not saying it's gonna be a tier 1 deck, but I do think it's something to think about. I do think Uta gets a whole new set of legs in this weird gap between now and then when like set 11 comes out, because the thing is like Uta was always hard checked by black because it would just go so wide, and then like black would be like, well, I'm just gonna pop everything, and it was like, well, okay, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But drawing 2 cards a turn, all my bodies play other bodies, and I don't have to fear black popping my things.
Yeah.
Like your only bad matchup is Blackbeard, but that means the Blackbeard player has to discard at every point of the game.
I do want us to
wait,
because this touches like this very heavily like touches on a topic that I do want us to address later on anyway. So I'll go ahead and put a pin in this one. Because yeah, we're gonna end up having to talk about this anyway, and I don't want us having like to repeat ourselves and stuff. Especially for people that are watching the video, don't have to hear it twice and stuff like that. So we will come back to that, I guarantee.
Yeah, you know the attention span of our viewers, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You could just bring this back to the.
That's also fair. You're right. In post editing,
you can just edit it to the back.
Do it. Yeah. So I think Ice Age with Gecko gone, Ice Age could have stayed. I also do think that though this like Ice Age now like becoming unfair in a sense it's really like it's because black's removal has just gotten so black shouldn't be like going plus on removal, you know. That's the only reason Ice Age is now an unfair card. That is literally it. Because if my opponent did like a Kobe play and they took 3 cards out of hand to pop an 8 cost, I would have been fine with that. But I'm not fine with like a Lucci taking 2 characters on my board, him like removing a 7 cost and a 2 cost with the Ice Age, you know. Like that's probably really stupid, because even with the Ice Age, he's still up 1 in advantage over you in that interaction. Kingdom Come is a hit that I didn't expect. I didn't see coming whatsoever. I'm assuming with Enel getting his new, it's a 10 drop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets his new 10 drop. I assume that like with them removing Doffy, and a bunch of other really oppressive leaders, or not even Doffy, because Enel is favored in the Doffy anyway. But either way, the sentiment is they're removing a lot of really
black
good leaders that were, you know, did good into Enel, and maybe they're just like afraid of Enel becoming a demon once 10 drop comes out. So this is probably something that keeps him in check, and it probably makes it so that like 10 drop moving forward, they have to use him as like a piece of removal and actually fight for board with it. You know, so now that they can't just Rygo a body then 10 drop on the following turn. So that's probably something there. I also found it crazy because like I was watching a guy sell his deck and looking at his like black yellow Luffy deck being sold, I saw the Geckos in it. I was like, this deck is so fucking dead. And then like I saw the next card and it was Rygo. I was like, I forgot they play that. Like this deck is double dead. Like holy shit.
Yeah.
Because black yellow also played that card. So there's that. And then
well, the reason they did it was to rush the, like, if someone tried to slow play them, they like, all right, well, forget that. Rygo, pop, Flambe gets to 0, now leader effect.
Yeah.
So then they're set up on turn 10.
I think one thing worth mentioning with the Ice Age, like you kind of touched on briefly, Manny, was that it you know, it is a card that Blackbeard played. So there actually is that, because Blackbeard is supposed to be the best deck of OP10, at least he was in the East. And a big part of that is like Kuzan being able to float into like a dot Q at any moment, or if they have dot Q in hand, float into like a Ban Augur at any moment. Like a Kuzan established on board at any point combined with a dot Q.
Cost, doesn't he?
What?
5 costs.
He goes into, he floats into 5 costs, yeah. Yeah, so at any point you would just sack the Kuzan because your opponent can't remove it. There's no way to remove it. You have to tap it and beat over it if you want it off the board. And only, not every color can do that. So Kuzan sticks to the board, and the minute the Blackbeard player finds themselves in a situation that they're not able to answer, they sack the Kuzan off and they float into whatever piece it is they're missing. So a Kuzan on board at any point, if your opponent just had like a dot Q in hand and an Ice Age, they would be able to remove. I know that I've been playtesting into it. Ice Age, like if you play a big body into Blackbeard, Ice Age is like the only way they're removing like big bodies. Like if you drop a 9 mom against a Blackbeard, Ice Age out of the equation, those bodies are gonna stick now. Like they actually just do stick. So that's why I don't think that maybe that we end up in a Blackbeard meta, because Ice Age is actually a pretty big hit to Blackbeard.
Yeah.
And then as far as go for it.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I think another thing that's going to make it sad we're not in a strict, because like you can look at it as, oh, Blackbeard's biggest matchup, like his hardest matchup just got neutered, which being Doffy. But what I see it as also is other decks couldn't really be played because of Doffy. So I think it's going to open the doors for other decks that can do well into Blackbeard to sneak their way into the meta and shake things up.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to take into consideration before everybody panics and says, oh, well, it's just Blackbeard for 3 months now. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be strong as fuck. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, he's absolutely going to be an S tier deck, no fucking doubt about it. But I don't think it's going to be a Whitebeard set 2 problem.
You know who I kind of want to build?
I feel like I was thinking about it last night and today. I have literally zero interest in upcoming meta just because I expect it to be Blackbeard and Kid Poker. Like that's what I think the meta is going to develop.
I don't think
You
so.
said Blackbeard and what? Sorry, it cut out.
Red Green Smoker.
Blackbeard and Smoker.
I don't really.
Kid.
Yeah,
With having no way to remove those fucking 8-drop kids reliably in black now, and the fucking not being able to beat face down fast enough for Whitebeard to not be safe behind the 10-drop, it's gonna be insanely unfun so far from my just thinking about it.
My kind of thing on it is like, I don't think Red Green Smoker even cared about Black anyway, because Black would have to use pieces to try to remove something, and they can't do that without having to first invest resources into like removing like the Tashigi or the Rosinante or something like that. So like, even when we watched the grand final of Red Green Smoker it was actually Lucci. It was actually literally a Lucci player. The very event that Red Green Smoker won, he played through multiple Black players. Like they don't care about like a Lucci or anything like that, because you know, like it was for example a turn. Remember the turn where he played a Hody Jones. He tapped 2 things. He swung with the Hody, then he used leader ability, reached it 2 down, and played Rosinante. And then on the Lucci's turn, usually that would be a very like fragile board if it was just a Hody, but because leader ability and a Rosinante, he had to waste his turn popping the Rosinante, you know, because he couldn't get the Rosinante and the Hody. And that's especially like, and that was that, I don't know, like I just feel like just based off of like seeing his run into Black players, I don't think that like Lucci would have ever been the answer to Smoker anyway. So I don't think that really matters too much in that regard. I think I'm not even sure why it is Smoker took so long to catch on, in all honesty, because I think the deck's only problem is that it is inconsistent, and that's kind of it. Brandon, I know you've been dicking around on that leader. What do you...
No, the only issue with it is that it does heavily rely around 8-cost Kid and 5-cost Smoker. The 5-cost Smoker is searchable. The 8-cost Kid is not. So there will be not many, but there will absolutely be games where you just don't see the 8-cost Kid in a matchup that you need to see the 8-cost Kid, and you'll just lose because of it. So it is a heavy, like, you mulligan for 8-cost Kid in most matchups deck. And if you don't see it, sucks.
No, I agree. I think the final hit...
I think...
What, Manny?
Oh, no, like that. All that kind of the Brandon thing. You know, like how now Kid is just like this much significantly harder beast to get rid of. But then I know there's gonna be some people that's like, oh, well, like those decks usually run slower, so you just got to rush them down. But then I think another green deck that's on the other side of the spectrum besides Uta would be something like Odin, where it's like they're playing bodies going wide and coming at you aggressively to the point where it's like, because before like we meme that like the 8-drop Odin is like a meme Zoro, but the issue was that he would just get popped, and then because he was an 8, he was just easier to pop, so it wasn't like real Zoro. But like he can still swing twice, and then even if you do deal with him, he does replace himself. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you can't easily get rid of him now, he gets so that means he's going to live long enough to do his 2 swings. Then let's say you kill him, he just replaces himself. Yeah. Or you don't kill him, and then he still gets 2 more swings on the next turn.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm really excited for this meta.
Same.
That like Black got hit. I don't think Doffy got hit enough that he's not still going to be one of the better decks. But
I feel like with Doffy, I have to go back to like the more control variant, maybe playing 10-drop kind of.
Oh, well,
I think that's what blue is, though. You got to go back to playing control and drawing cards, and that's like when I think of blue, I think of control and draw. You know, not going wide as fucking killing your opponent before they hit 10 on.
One thing with Red Green Smoker as well is it's not a deck that you can rush down if they have 8-cost Kid, because you have 4-cost 7k blockers, you run 4 Rosinante blockers, you run 3 to 4 killer blockers. You're always hitting the 8 Dawn in that deck, and then you have leader ability, and by 8 Dawn you can just hide behind 8-cost Kid. There is no rushing that deck down, which is one thing that makes the deck extremely strong. Like if they have the 8-cost Kid on curve, you will never kill them before they can play it.
Yeah. I think there's, and then I think the final card is Gecko Moria. Like Nick was saying, this is one that we've seen coming for a really, really long time. I was never sure when it is that they were going to hit him. I always, you know, it was always very evident that Gecko was going to be banned at some point. I just never knew when it would finally happen. Because I don't know, like all the black players, they've been falling off of representation, but they don't drop in performance. Like they still, like at our Nats, we had I think we had 2 Luccis in our top 4 at Nats, and then we had 2 Luccis in our top 4 at Worlds, you know? So Gecko Moria, while we do see less and less Gecko, you know, the higher up you know, the seeding happens in the tournaments, like the best players on the planet all end up back on Gecko. I mean, Gecko literally just won our Worlds, even, you know, he won in the top 4 match. Gecko Moria won that game. And then in the grand finals, Gecko Moria won that game also. And it was the best 2 out of 3 even. So like Gecko's consistently...
I have no idea what a Shanks was doing up there in the first place.
I don't either. And after watching it, I really have no idea either. Like it really just showed like Shanks is so fucking inconsistent. That man was just drawing 2k after 2k. He never dropped like a big body or anything. That was like, it was a hard watch. I was like, oh my fucking, I was rooting for the Shanks at one point because he was like, oh, he's an underdog. This is bad. Like, oh my God. So
my thing. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Go for it.
My thing to show just how much of a problem card it is take Black Purple Luffy, for example. Don't get me wrong, shit deck, right?
Okay, cool.
But the main argument for it being a bad deck is that it has a bad Gecko play.
Yeah.
With black in it. And the fact that that's your main, like a lot of people's main argument, and a very valid argument for the deck being bad, is that, oh, it can ramp, kind of, but it has a bad Gecko play.
Yeah.
Means that Gecko is just that strong that it's like, yo, your deck that has black in it has a bad, not even bad Gecko play, a subpar Gecko play. Means that Gecko is just kind of way too fucking strong.
You know, one of the arguments, so one of the reasons I didn't, like, we knew Gecko would get hit eventually, but I didn't think Gecko would get hit this time around. And I really do think it's because the way I've been viewing Gecko very recently is Gecko kind of feels like Black's 8-drop Kid, where it's like, what else does the color do outside of that now?
True.
So... like, I would not be surprised if after this ban list, if there's just no black deck in the meta. It would not, I mean, outside of Blackbeard, which I don't even really count, because,
I do think, well, Blackbeard would be a deck, and I think possibly, like, Usopp would just be another decent black.
Yeah, he doesn't use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Usopp's best matchups were murdered in this ban list, because he did good into Doffy, good into, but now good, and like he's bad into everything that's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is maybe the resurgence of green. Like everything else just had to get clipped at the knees so that green could be good.
You know, I don't
And
know.
that sounds like dog shit.
Oh no. In all honesty, I really don't know. I do think that like this could be the resurgence of Bonnie specifically.
I mean,
don't know
if you
Green as
think
a
about
whole.
it,
I do think
Lim-
Bonnie is best green leader.
I think
Lim
she is
might
too.
go fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to touch on that later because I do want us to like address like things we think could happen in the meta because I do think Lim has a very good, shot now moving
Absolutely.
forward. But
And now that Laura bought all her alternate art Lim pieces for cheap, and then people are going like, green is the way, and then we already have proof that Lim was doing good in
I already
the
got my
East, even
piece.
before the hits. Yeah, we've been doing good, but now
They have
Lim
alternate
just has to be
leaders
good.
somewhere.
because I
accidentally
think I
ordered
might
a
even dick
Japanese
around with
alternate
Lim for OP done.
Upset about that.
I think when I want to win, I'm gonna play I'm gonna play purple Luffy, and I think when I want to win, I want to like have fun but not throw, and even have like a good shot at winning. I'll probably play Lim because I think I have
Yeah.
I don't know, I have
What's being caught?
yeah, I think she could an OP 11. Well, you guys will hear all about that one day, but there is that. So yeah, I think that's why maybe Gecko. I don't think Gecko should have gone away just yet. I think the problem with Gecko though versus like Kid is that like Kid kept all the green decks like competitive, whereas Gecko kept a lot of black decks competitive, but then he also just broke some leaders. Like that is the problem. That's the problem with Gecko. There were like some abusers of Gecko that just like were really, really, really unfair. I am glad to see Black Yellow Luffy finally die as a deck. I think that deck has overstayed its welcome. It's been good for so long. Like I understand like not wanting to lose your leader or whatever, and I can sympathize with that. But I also think that like fatigue is a real thing, and at some point people get tired of seeing a deck. And like I don't think any like specific deck should probably be meta for like even 3 sets in a row is really fucking annoying, but like anything beyond that is so excessive. So I don't know because
Speaking of fatigue and not
What?
wanting to see leaders for too long. Oh no, it would be a great segue. Just saying.
oh I see. Yeah. So I don't know, those are kind of my thoughts on the hits that took place. We also another topic that's really worth talking about now is set blocks and rotation. A lot of people are salty about this. I see a lot of people talking about they're going to quit One Piece or like Bandai killed their game. What are your guys' thoughts on rotation? And I want Manny to lead because I know Manny disagrees with me, and we haven't talked about it yet. But I know your stance on
Before
rotation.
Manny leads with it, can
So
we
funny
explain
enough,
kind
Chris,
of how it
I
works?
think.
Oh, you're right. Wait, Manny.
No.
Brandon's right. Brandon's right. So
What?
the way
That's
set
rotating.
rotation operates is in the bottom right of a card. In the bottom right of a card, there is a little devil fruit with a number in it. And what they are doing is basically whenever a rotation is to happen, there will be a number and you can only play cards from that number forward. So for example, April of next year, all cards with the devil fruit 1 and prior will rotate out of the game. That means you can no longer play them. There are exceptions to
through
this,
4,
however.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are exceptions to this, however. Cards can get reprinted, and when a card gets reprinted, it will get a updated block number, and that will mean that you can keep playing that card for the foreseeable future until that card does rotate and doesn't get a reprint at any point. And in addition to that, another thing people were confused about is like, if you have like the old version of the card, you can still use that version of the card. You don't have to buy new copies of the card. So long as you have a card with that name and that text, it doesn't matter what the block number on it is. As long as one of those numbers does exist and is current, you can play any version of that card.
And they'll be doing it once a year, basically. So every year, because we get 4 new sets, 4 blocks will rotate out. Or
Yes. And
That's
one
right,
concern that people had, I believe so, right? Is that not accurate?
I don't know. It's
I
so
think it is.
well. A block is 3 sets, right? So a whole block.
Wait. No. I think
One
it is just
block
block
would
1. I
rotate
think it
out.
is just block 1. I don't think it's like 1
Yeah,
through 4.
block 1 would
because,
rotate out. Because
Yeah.
block 1 is sets 1 through 4. So
Yeah, exactly.
sets 1 through 4 rotate out, which
Yes,
is block
yes.
1.
Yep, because we get a new
Yes.
set every 3 months.
So a block will rotate out every year, basically, because a whole new block will have been introduced.
Yes, because a block is a square, and a square has 4 sides. If you look at a
Exactly.
cube from the second dimension.
Also, one thing that I want to note.
Wait. Is this
I know
changing topic whatsoever? Because I know Manny wants to
No,
say
no,
something. Okay.
Same thing. Because they have the devil fruits all the way back to set 1, it's obviously, when you look at it, not something that Bandai just decided to do. They've been
Right.
planning to do this since set 1.
I don't think they've been planning to do it because I think
No, I think they have.
No. Here's
The
why I
moment
disagree.
they put
Because
2
every
on the other fruit.
I was talking to Trevor, Arvin, Colin, and Moham last night, and every Bandai
Trevor's
game has done
alive?
this. Yes. So
And-
I haven't
every
seen that
Bandai,
man alive. in
And
forever.
what did they say?
so pretty much every Bandai game has done this. So it's not that they plan to do a rotation. I think it's kind of like how we've talked about in the past, where I have said like, I think it is a panic button. So if they ever feel the need to do it, that they can do it. They have something that enables it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like they were like, we're gonna do a rotation at some point. I think it's
Okay,
just like
fair,
the game's
fair.
fucked. We have a solution sitting there.
You know what it was? It was Nami leader. That's why. They're like, fuck Blue Nami. But,
Yeah.
I agree.
But
yeah,
now
Blue
we
Nami
all-
getting rotated out.
Yes, sir. Now we all know how it works, though. So Manny, let us know.
Oh, there
what
is
you
one
think
more
about,
thing. Before
what?
I go into
Yes.
it, and this is my least favorite part of rotation, is that they said that there will be like a specific set of cards that will always be legal, and then they just showed all of the mangas
All right.
Yeah.
for some reason. Like, I think if you're gonna commit to rotation, fully commit.
I agree with that.
No, because like,
ooh, pretty manga cards, buy
Well,
our product.
I don't know. I don't think that really matters because like, would we be upset if, for example, like let's say it didn't happen to be a manga, but let's just say that those same 9 cards just happened to get reprints anyway. Would we really be upset that like Nami, Zoro, and the other guys stayed in? I think like people knowing that their manga's safe is fine or whatever, because realistically, as long as they don't print a broken card that gets a manga, I don't really care if that card's here forever. All the like mangas we have, a lot of them aren't even good. Is the thing.
Which,
a lot
by
of
the
them are
way,
mid.
this is a little bit of speculation, because they haven't said that it will be mangas. That's just the image that was shown.
Yeah.
So we don't know if it will be all mangas, if it will be only mangas. Like that part we truly don't know yet.
And one
But
final
we
thing
do know
worth
that there
touching.
will be cards.
And one final thing worth touching on before we let Manny speak. For sure, no other tangents after this one. You'll definitely get to talk, Manny.
No promises.
The final thing regarding rotation is one concern that a lot of people have had, myself included, was that like leaders that we like would rotate out of the game, like Blurple Crawl, because he's block 1, for example. I was very upset and hoping that like a reprint would happen at some point. Premium Booster 2 is reprinting all leaders, so there shouldn't be any leaders that
What?
are rotating out of the game. Yes.
All leaders, including Blue Nami. Stop.
Yeah, so there goes that. So there you go. Well, but
Okay.
who cares though if Blue Nami rotates with like all her support gone? I mean, if she stays and her
Fair.
support rotates out, who cares? Anyway, go for it, Manny. Go for it.
So Chris, you say that I'm on the opposite stance of you,
Uh-huh.
but I will say that I don't know if maybe Magic and Pokemon and Age has shown me the way outside, because the Yu-Gi-Oh player in me is mad
Yes.
because it's like you're taking away my cards. And like I put time and investment in the cards that I like and want to play, and that like now like my card becomes bulk.
Yes.
But I do think that for the health of the game,
yes.
rotation is the best thing to go, and that's because, funny enough, I was actually talking, and the moment I realized that I'm pro rotation
Mhm.
is because I was talking to a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh players at work when, like, 'cause I was running tournament.
Mhm.
And they come up to me and they're like, man, like Yu-Gi-Oh, so this, that, and I started going on this whole like mini tangent about how it's so hard for new players to get into Yu-Gi-Oh because you have to go on this huge learning curve about all the different
Oh, yeah,
mechanics. What's this, like, what's cost, what's not cost, what's part of the effect, when do cards get to resolve as much as they can, or do they fizzle out?
If
Why
and
do
when.
cards blow?
Ugh.
Like if and whens and timing and chain links and all that. And if a
Yeah.
new player has to learn all this before they even get in the game. And
Not
the
to
reason
mention-
is because they refuse to do rotations where
Yes.
they do like soft resets of the game, where it's like, all right, the game was crazy, now we're rotating it and we're forcing the game to be slower. And
Yeah.
then and you don't have to worry about someone speeding up again because you don't have those cards anymore. Because
Yeah.
in Yu-Gi-Oh, because the card pool is so huge, they have to always be like, oh, We have to make new cards that are better than these cards.
Exactly.
We can't add cards to make these old cards ridiculous. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Unfortunately has gotten to a point where they've been doing it for so long, they can never revert back to the rotation format.
Yes. No, I agree. I completely agree with that 100%. Whenever I talk to somebody and they talk about why, how they don't like rotation, the very first thing that comes to my mind every time is this is a Yu-Gi-Oh player. This is somebody who's like main game is Yu-Gi-Oh, or like, they still play Yu-Gi-Oh to this day or something. It always comes back to Yu-Gi-Oh in some way. There are very few people who played not Yu-Gi-Oh that don't like rotation. And it's because rotation. So I think there's this one thing that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players like hyper fixate on. And I think it's, I don't know. I feel like they always look at it wrong. It's always like, no matter when I'm playing this game, I can always come back and play with my old cards. And it's like, brother, you can't take Neos into a fucking tournament in 2025. Nope. Let's be realistic. Nope. You almost have your own kind of rotation in a way where it's power creep is so fucking bad. Cards that are like 2 years old, unplayable. Yeah, you literally cannot play with those cards because they're so bad because the power creep is so extreme and so degenerate. That's the kind of like
people
power
flocking to Edison format.
Yeah, and it's like people will be like, well, I like this one instance of where like, I'm playing my new deck, but then it uses this one old card. You have to think like, if Yu-Gi-Oh has a card pool of like, say like 20,000 cards, how often do you think it realizes that one of those old cards pops back up in the meta? Like, it doesn't happen that often whatsoever to justify fucking the entire game's like power, overall. So it just doesn't make sense. Well, like being able to play like Neos Aqua Dolphin or whatever, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, sure, he came back after like 10 plus years, but like he did, and then how many other cards from his set never saw play again? It's like he's one of the few shining examples that people cling to. And that's why I think like, because I think a really good way to look at it like this too is like, a really great way to look at it is like this. So let's say that like you're a player and you hate Gecko Moria, right? And Gecko stays in the game and he's basically just sitting here and he's being a problem, and you're hoping that Bandai sees eye to eye with you and they finally ban the card. If rotations are a thing, whether or not Bandai agrees with you, you know that Gecko is rotating at some point no matter what, unless he gets a reprint. That is the only thing that can keep him in the game at that point. Because no matter how problematic a card is, you know that if I just wait it out, sooner or later, I'll never have to deal with this card ever again. Ever again, just never. And that is why rotation is so good. Not to mention, if there ever is like a period where like a set gets really, really, really broken and the power creep is ridiculous for whatever reason, Bandai can just go back to printing weaker sets again. That set will remain broken for who knows however long. But once that set rotates out, you go back to the weaker power level that Bandai start printing after the fact.
Yep.
Like, you can't reset power level in a card game without having rotation. And that is why it is a good thing to have. Because I know me and myself, I used to be anti-rotation, but again, it was back when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Once I graduated from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I guess when I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Some people probably find that offensive or whatever, like, I don't know, talking down on Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever. But once I started playing card games that were not Yu-Gi-Oh! I realized that for the health of the game, a rotation is a good thing. That's just as simple as it is. I heard someone complaining that, like, rotation's bad because, like, if they want to play Wano, if they want to play like green Wano from OP01, they can't if the cards rotate. But it's like, again, if there is no rotation, you couldn't play green Wano anyway because those cards would be so fucking unplayable, because the only way Bandai can incentivize people to play with new cards is if the new cards are better than the old cards. So power creep, you find yourself in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Scenario. And then also look at it like this. If Yu-Gi-Oh! Did have rotation, like you're talking about, Manny, like when a new player comes into the game, like they have to learn like Fusion, Ritual, Synchro, Exceed, Pendulum, Link. They have to learn all these different mechanics. Whereas if there was a rotation, they would probably only have to learn like links, They wouldn't have to learn every previous mechanic that came prior to it. They would only have to learn what is currently playable, because the old mechanics would rotate out of the game. Kind of like with Pokemon, like you don't need to learn level X's and GX's and EX's and VMAX's. You only need to learn what is currently in the game. And it's the most accessible way for like people to get into a game. I just think it's
and then
great.
The cool thing the cool thing what will end up happening is that then we'll get new form of monsters that would be combinations of like for like how Pokemon does, because for people who don't know, in the Pokemon scene there used to be Mega Evolutions. And how it worked was that you could evolve your Pokemon from it to the Mega, but
Yeah.
unless you gave it the tools to let it
Spirit Link,
evolve
yeah.
and not end your turn,
Mhm.
you would have to end your turn after it. Then they did that. We had that for a while. Now they're bringing it back, but now they're like, the game is faster and we're bringing back this mechanic, and now they made it a little bit faster, and they changed it a bit of ways to be like, this is now a more fine-tuned, better
Yeah.
version of the Mega Evolution, versus they came up with synchro summoning, and then at the time it was like, this is cool, but then in the future now it's like, well, we can't change what synchro is. We only can make the synchro monsters that it
Yeah.
produces some scale of ridiculousness,
Yeah.
but they can never refine what synchro summoning is. If they were to do rotations, they could do like, okay, synchros have now rotated out, we're gonna do exceed, which we're doing rotations, and now everyone can just exceed. And it wasn't until Arc 5 is when they're like, oh yeah, well, like, we ignored all the other ones, we're just bring everything back together. But they could have started doing that, and then when synchros came back, it could have been like, here's a new, more fine-tuned way to synchro.
Another good way to look at it too is like, kind of like, for example, like the Gecko problem, how we've already talked about how like rotation would have single-handedly solved the Gecko problem on its own without Bandai ever having to intervene. Other problems that you might have with the game or stuff like that, like, let's say for example you're a blue player and you hate that you don't have card draw anymore because Nami has made it impossible for Bandai to just print actual card draw and they keep giving you cycle.
Yep, I
Nami, yeah. Nami, like Nami existing currently, if she has access to every blue card to have ever existed, they can't print any more card draw because she'll run that in addition to everything else, and now at that point, she's a problem.
We can get healthy blue cards
Blue
now.
cards can draw finally once again, because once all the old blue cards that draw rotate out of the game, Nami has half as many. All those rotate out, and now she has only the new blue cards to play with. She has half as many draw cards, so all of a sudden, who cares if Nami gets a card that draws every now and then? Because it makes no difference. She'll never be able to play all of them at one time. That's like, it's just great for the health of the game. And then also, like, just certain packages you get tired of seeing. Like, say you get tired of seeing Black or whatever. At some point, if the Navy package rotates, Black has to innovate and play a different package or do something completely different. It's just stuff like that. I think it's great for
also,
Go for it,
okay.
Brandon. No, just go for it.
Well, also stuff like in that same category, 8-cost kid. It's the green card, right? And eventually, come April of next year, that's going to rotate out and green won't have it anymore.
Yeah.
My overall sentiment with it is I think it's very healthy for the game. I've been saying it since like set 3 that I believe that rotation will happen and that it will have to, just because of staple cards. I always hate staple cards when like it's 10 sets later and you kind of like, you're playing a certain color, especially with the dual color leader, and it's like, damn, because you're playing this color, you have to run 4 of this card.
Yeah.
Now my deck building is already like, all right, I already have less cards to choose from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also like you guys said, I was watching the like one of the official Discords popping off this morning. People saying, oh, the game is stupid now. This is stupid. One of the arguments was when I'm like, hey, look at what Yu-Gi-Oh's become. And they're like, oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh's been here for 25 years. We don't need it. So are we going to wait for 25 years to implement it when we truly do need it? Like and like you guys said, it's at the point where once it's too far gone, it's gone. You can't just randomly implement it years and years later. One other argument that I had was a lot of people are relating it to Magic the Gathering, and they're like, oh, probably like the most popular format is Commander. Which doesn't rotate, correct, but Commander you play because you want to have fun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you, and to all those people that say that, I just say, have you ever gone to a Commander tournament? You're playing for fun. First of all, even for fun, you spent $700 on your deck. Let's face it. And you're across from somebody that's not there for fun. They are there with their Commander deck to win. You're not going to have a good time because they have a $13,000 deck and they're going to beat you on turn 1 and you're just sitting there not having a good fucking time. And if I have to sit down at a table of people that I don't know and say, what power level are your decks? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that.
Another thing to your point, Brandon, that people, like it's so funny when people talk like, oh, well, it's kind of like Magic. The Magic people aren't saying this because they know better. Another thing you have to realize, when it comes to competitive Commander, it's not 1v1. It's in a pod.
Exactly.
It's in a pod. There is no actual 1v1 commander. And when people do 1v1 commander, you might as well be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because one person's popping off and the other person better have the other better have the negate. Otherwise, the game is over.
Yeah,
the only reason why pods happen is because you're scared the other two people may have it too. So it's 3 hands versus the 1.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
People
also
do not realize that, and it blows my mind. So this commander nonsense is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't
also,
get why that keeps coming up.
It's also a different game. Like it saying that One Piece will end up being like Commander if it had an unbroke like being like that. It's like trying to compare COD to League of Legends just because it's 5v5. Nah, just because 5v5 doesn't make it the same game.
Go play Hearthstone. Like, play Hearthstone, invest into it, play Standard versus Wild, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
You have to also think too that like they can now print stronger archetypes moving forward. Like archetypes are always so mid now. They're like like look at what's carrot minks. Like think about how like mediocre minks are. Pretty much almost every green like archetype outside of like supernovas. Like for example, Navy, as far as like a card like Great Eruption is incredible. That card's existed for so long. That card's now currently banned. If we had a rotation since the very beginning, a card like Great Eruption was fair for such a long time, and it didn't get broken until Sakazuki came out. But if rotation had existed, Sakazuki would have never been able to play with Great Eruption to begin with, because it would have rotated it.
Still would have been a leader with his original effect.
Exactly. So it's just like you can print good cards for archetypes because you don't have to worry about all the good cards from this set and the good cards from this set and the good card from this set all piling on each other, making a broken mess. Now, what this does make you curious to think about, though, is what One Piece's expanded format would end up looking like, because that could be a complete shit show. It could probably just be neglected by Bandai. I bet that's what's gonna end up happening to it too. I bet it's gonna be like Pokemon's expanded, where it's like it's there, but like, and it's supported, but it's not supported. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they're not going to support it for the sheer fact that, like, Pokemon toys with the idea that it's there sometimes, but like it's one of those things where it's like they don't do it anymore, and it used to be heavily supported, but they don't do it anymore. But they know if they ever wanted to, they could.
It's going to become
with One Piece is that they have too many card games going on to ever be like to put time into investing in old One Piece format. I would say One Piece is their best card game, so it would make more sense to do so. But they're so busy with other card games, it like they would have to drop all of them and just focus on One Piece.
I could see at some point that like One Piece expanded format devolves into a fucking Hearthstone Wild, you know? Like it would not surprise me if that happened at some point.
Exactly.
I get one final topic I'd like us to talk on. So
Nick hasn't talked about it yet, by the way.
Yeah.
Nick, did you have anything you want to say? I assumed you just didn't.
No, I mean, I already said.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
We figured rotation was coming from the beginning. It's weird because this is the first Bandai game that has rotation.
Yeah.
As far as I know. But no, I'm fine with it. I'm very, very okay with it for the longevity of the game.
So the final topic, assuming no one else has any topics after the fact, leaders. Nope. Like the effect that like this ban list could have on the meta. So one very big thing that we're immediately dealing with is so like Blackbeard dominated the East. Blackbeard is getting nerfed in the West. You guys don't know how many times when I was playing against Lucas the other day, you guys don't know how many times where like a Kuzan was just on the board, he would draw the Ice Age and finally go like sack Kuzan, swing 5 first, and then sack it for a Van Alger, tap -3 Ice Age, -8 dot Q, pop a 9. Like he would just do that for 3 Dawn. Every time like he just randomly drew an Ice Age, I would just lose a 9 cost character from the board just because Blackbeard was able to and he felt like it. So that's a massive nerf to Blackbeard. So I think Blackbeard, like we were saying earlier, will be really good, but I don't think he's going to be nearly as good here as he was over there. So he may not, dominate our set. Doffy also gate kept a lot of decks. Whenever I read the comment section, people complain about how they want like 4-drop law banned because their deck can't play the game into a 4-drop law. I think there's probably other problems at play there, but also it does go to show that like there are decks that now want to run their 4-drop characters that can now exist because Doffy doesn't exist. 4-life leaders, it becomes a lot easier to exist as a 4-life leader now because you're not getting rushed down by Doffy. And I think the only deck that's going to be rushing you down now is a deck like Purple Luffy. And another deck that I think can maybe make it into the meta at this point, I think Bello Betty has a really good shot because Bello Betty's bad matchups were the same as Purple Luffy's. It was Doffy and it was Lucci, and they're gone. So Betty could probably be a menace now. We were talking about green purple Lim earlier. What?
Yeah. The new red Luffy isn't too bad.
I'm not a fan of him. I'm not.
Fair. If anyone, I thought you would be off of, since you played a red Luffy.
Bro, because I played red Luffy's why I don't like that leader. Because red Luffy is play on curve, and new red Luffy is you can't play like bodies as big as red Luffy because you have to play down a Dawn. But the trade-off is that you get to swing like
a
7.
Weird mix of Luffy and Zoro.
Yeah, exactly. It's you have to play like worse bodies, but you get to swing bigger. So that's why I'm not a fan of him. But I think Lim has a really, really good shot. The only thing I think that could like probably make it not the case for her is that Blackbeard did get a new event that is basically Gravity Blade. Where it'll just drop 2 of Lim's bodies. It'll just nuke them off the board. So there is stuff like that too. But like, I don't know. There's just like a lot of leaders all of a sudden that just get so much better. Yeah.
So for me, like my honorable mentions, I really think are going to be like, I think Odin actually has a pretty decent shot in this new format.
That's crazy.
That we're gonna be happy. Well, because this is why it gets to go wide. It still has all the green pieces. And then like, and its biggest issue was that its parts would always get blown apart by black. But even with Blackbeard, a lot of their effects aren't on play, and I think the secret sauce is actually the Okiku, and it's because it gets to challenge the Burgess before the Burgess even gets a first swing. Well, it gives you the opportunity to challenge it.
I don't know. I see Odin just crumbling.
Though, Burgess is so much more difficult come set 10 though, because like it's not Burgess just sitting on the board. That Burgess is hiding behind a Kuzan.
Exactly. So many times when I was playing into Lucas, for example, and also not to mention Blackbeard becomes a little tankier because like now he can afford to just counter with Burgess. He doesn't have to hold it anymore. He can counter with it and bring it back whenever he needs it, if he ever needs it.
Deck is dumb.
Yeah.
I think it is, the ban list is absolutely going to shake things up just with those 4 cards.
Because this is big.
Hopefully
like
for the better, but we'll see.
Just really Doffy getting weaker is so huge too, because like you have to think like a deck like Yellow Kid, for example. Like one of the strongest plays in that deck is like Hawkins, and then you make it a blocker, and Doffy just fucking bounced it back to the hand, so he just didn't care. He bounced it to your hand and then he hit you for 7. Like, so you know, there's just a lot of decks that came out in OP10 that did fucking nothing because they just couldn't compete with the meta that we are in, where you're being rushed down by Purple Luffy, you're being rushed down by Doflamingo, you can't keep a board because Black Luffy, you can never touch the opponent if it's a Black Yellow Luffy. Like, this is massive. These were like really, really, really big hits. This was almost kind of nuclear. And like, our OP10 is not going to be whatever the East experience. We will just be playing in a completely different format.
We're playing we're playing a completely different game now.
OP10, I was going to play Pokemon for OP10 and then play an extra booster once it came out. I was just going to skip OP10 entirely. Is that no interest because it was OPO 9.5 and I'm kind of over OPO 9. I'm kind of burnt out on it. But this ban list like it's a completely different format. Literally just like a format where like you're not like running into like a Doffy nonstop, basically. Just seeing him less often is a completely different format, even, you know? Like, you get to play different matchups for once. Like, I don't know.
I would say the one...
What?
I am kind of disappointed to see Doffy go, though, because I really wanted to have a lot of fun on Buggy.
Yeah, loser.
Bro. I was talking to so many people...
He still shits on Blackbeard, so...
He does. I saw, like, so many people that were talking about, like, they're like, should I sell... Yeah, it was like, should I sell my Buggy now or should I hold it in case it goes up? And I'm like, the only reason it would ever go up is because the promo beats Doflamingo, but Doflamingo's getting fucking hit anyway, so what would be the point?
I mean, we're getting those starter decks. Buggy's gonna get new cards.
That is also true. That is very valid. But
that would be the time to sell your Buggy cards. As soon as the cards in that starter deck get revealed, that is the time to sell Buggy cards.
I think Odin has a decent shot. I think Uta Like most of the points I said before, but like Uta is still an advantage engine at the end of the day. It draws 2, but now you're less scared of your guys getting popped, so you get to keep your advantage more than ever before actually.
Yeah.
Because now less people are wanting to play blue because Doffy's not the best deck, and then the only hard removal against you then was with Gravity Blade. So if black has a harder time popping you, and less people are playing blue, green is just kind of like popping off right now.
Yeah.
I think. Lim, like how we were saying, I think Lim's going to do very good.
Bro, I think she's our new like go white deck.
Yeah.
And the revolutionary armor girl that we were talking
Bella
about.
Betty.
Bella
Those
Betty.
are 2 good examples.
It's gonna be Yeah,
Of
those 2 are just gonna go wild.
Bella
I
Betty's
think those are just
insane.
great examples though of just like a concept we're gonna get to see moving forward. 4
Going
life
wide is
leaders
gonna
have
be the
not
new-
been
yeah.
able to be good for so long because of how aggro our meta has been, and all of a sudden like 4 life leaders won't fucking explode by turn 4.
What I love
Go for it.
Well, what I love about the rotation as well is that now, like, when you look at it and you're like, okay, well, these 4 sets of, like, leaders, for example, will be rotating out because they may not be reprinted every single set, but now
Correct.
you have to really look, like, people are like, oh, it's going to take out, like, creativity from the game because you have less cards to work with. First of all, no, you have 3 fucking years worth of cards to work with. Get over it.
Yep. No, I agree.
Second of all, now you have to look at like, okay, what leaders do I have to build around coming up?
Yeah.
And what decks do I have to build around? So like the game will change drastically every rotation, which I think is just, it keeps it exciting.
You also have to think too, like there could just be like for example, we've had sets where we've had like 6 dual leaders. We've had sets where we had we have sets where we had 6 mono leaders. Like they're like Bandai at any moment, if they ever want to, they could force us into a dual meta, you know, where like we have nothing but just dual leaders. We actually have to play with our 4 life leaders. And also like having rotation, dialing back the power level. Maybe playing a 4 life leader isn't as terrible as it used to be, you know, if the game scales back how strong everything is. Because I've like, because you have to think every time we get a new set, like fucking off rip, every time a new leader is like 4 life, you immediately just have to write them off. Because you have to think before Green Purple Luffy comes out in like 2-3 months, the last good 4 life leader that came out prior to him was Black Yellow Luffy. And that was like after OPO7. That was nearing the end of OPO7. And prior to him, it was Red Purple Law and Sakazuki. Like 4 life leaders that creep into the meta are come so sparingly because it's being a 4 life leader is such a big handicap to have, and that just potentially has to like that may not be the case moving forward. Like 4 life leaders have had to be so overtuned and broken to be able to compete because just, you know, with the card pool that we have, with 3 years of cards and all these 5 life leaders putting together their 50 best possible cards, and you're trying to fight them with 1 less life. It's like, unless you're doing something broken, how do you compete with that? So
Exactly.
I'm excited for that. I do want to say one of the things too, because we talk about like leaders, I guess are kind of rogue or whatever that could do better. I think Purple Luffy has potential to be best deck in format because he has lost his 2 worst matchups. He's lost Lucci and he has lost Doflamingo. His Gum Gum Giant did not get touched whatsoever. So there is also that. And not to mention his deck list gets better because a lot of Luffy lists are tailored for the Doffy matchup. Like you are dedicating like 6 to 7 cards of your list to Doffy. With that no longer being the case, Luffy can just run a better list. You just build like a better, more well-rounded list and not try to not die to one specific matchup. So there is that also. We could find ourselves in a purple Luffy meta. And I find that crazy to think about. And if we do find ourselves in a purple Luffy meta, then 4 life leaders are still irrelevant, unfortunately.
So
That's
so another thing I want to mention, because you brought up purple Luffy, and and it's one of those things where it's like I may be on some cope or something, but hear me out. I legitimately think that purple black Luffy, even though he loses Gecko, but kind of how like everyone says, like, yeah, he has a Gecko play, but it's not like the greatest Gecko play.
Right.
The fact that he still has one of the best removal with no one of the best removal with no minus with like the Gum Gum Lightning, where it's like, oh, like I'm paying 1 just to pop 6Ks and all that, and then and go on that way. Now that the game, because the game is going to slow down a little bit. Like that's just what happens. Doffy slowed down because we don't have Jinbei, and then the top end for Black popping off to then being this hyper aggressive beast is gone now. Like the Gecko play was just the advantage engine in Black Purple Luffy, but like you could literally switch out the Geckos, which if you drew them, you drew them. If you didn't, you didn't. But you could literally switch them to Sabos, and the deck still functions how it always did. My thoughts.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think my cope is that I think with the rotation and the game slowing down and all that, maybe Purple Crockett isn't so ass all of a sudden. If he doesn't,
no, that's
if he doesn't lose his entire board to like Lucci and he isn't getting rushed down by Doffy, maybe there's something there finally. Who knows? OP11 Purple Croc guys. By the way, I keep saying it. And this is for like you guys in call, not for viewers. OP11 Purple Croc is fucking broken. Me and Lucas played like 7 games the other day. So mind you too, like I played Green Purple Luffy into Lucas, and he was actually like taking, he's on Blackbeard, I was on Green Purple, and he was actually taking a lot of games. Whenever I play like Purple Luffy to him, he takes a lot of games. Brother, when I was on Purple Crocodile, we played 7 games, I went 6-1 into him. And then we played more games, I think it was last night or the night before. Bro, Purple Croc has been favored into OP10 Blackbeard with Kuzan. OP11 Purple Croc is fucking insane because OP11 Blackbeard doesn't gain anything new, so it's just the OP10 list. Yeah. And Croc fucking rocks him. He rocks him, bro. Getting blue Straw Hats has made that leader so much better. So, I don't know, whenever you guys have a moment or whatever, I want to run some games into you so you guys can see what Purple Croc is really capable of. But, anything else, guys, before we wrap this one up?
Nick, you want to have your thoughts of which leaders?
No, I just genuinely can't think of any leader that I'm interested in playing currently. Maybe when 11 comes around, I'll play. But in the meantime,
I do think Yellow Kid may be the best leader coming out of the.
That sounds like not fun.
Yellow Kid just loses to Blackbeard immediately.
Well, I mean, who else would be the competition though? Usopp? I don't think Usopp is
Red Green Smoker.
I think Uta beats the shit out of Blackbeard now. Why
is it always Odin with you? What did I miss?
Uta.
Uta.
I think Uta beats the shit out of him.
I think Uta gets fucking rocked by Blackbeard, so I think it's the same argument there as well. You don't think so?
I think Uta gets rocked. No.
I think I'm just gonna play One Piece Waiting Room until Gundam gets 4 released.
Bro, for real.
Bro. Alrighty, well I guess with that being said then, until next time, we'll see you guys.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you guys.
Later.
Brandon's a sleepy baby.